Hello and welcome back to the Jobs Fuck podcast with me, your host, Jay Dartmoor, a place where emergency services can rant, have a laugh and let off some steam. If you have a story to tell, either DM me on Instagram, send an email to jdartmoor@gmail.com. All submissions are anonymised and sanitized, so you won't get PSD all over you. Today I'm joined by the amazing and wonderful Emma Lamin. So Emma, say hello.
Thank you for having me on.
All right, yeah, are you ready to solve some emergency service quandaries and problems and have a bit of a critique?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It'll be good.
Sounds fantastic. Right, okay. So you are my first guest I've ever had on this podcast. So
I'm honoured.
talk to me about a bit about your background, mate.
So I left the police last year in July. I actually joined the police as a special way back in 2021. I done that for about a year and a half, and then once I'd finished uni, I went in as a direct entry DC, and I'm sure that's got
Very
a lot of
nice.
controversy in itself. So I done some time on frontline after training, and then shortly went into CID after that. Um, and then yeah, decided it wasn't worth all the hours under the sun for no money and awful mental health. So yeah, here I am.
It's interesting to say about mental health because there's a couple of people messaging about things to do with mental health. Some things
Mm,
which I think will make your blood boil a little bit, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So you've seen it on both sides then. So I never did the DC stuff. I
hmm
was basically frontline for pretty much my entire career up until the last year or two, where I did like a more of like an investigation role.
Yeah.
Basically, you did the CID stuff, but you didn't get the accolades as a you didn't get the recognition of being CID. So how did you find the CID stuff? Because I know there's a few detectives listening to this.
Yeah, so I wasn't far off completing my portfolio and I could have stayed. So I gave up in July, but I only had till October to finish my portfolio, but I thought, you know what, fuck it, it's not worth it because I got to that point where I was that stressed I couldn't even last the 2-3 months.
Yeah.
Um it was I enjoyed frontline a lot more, I would say. I enjoyed going job to job to job, not knowing when you get to work, not knowing what you're going to face in the day. Um, and I loved that. Whereas when I come into CID as a trainee detective, firstly, I know very short staffed, but I was kind of just left to my own devices. And it's like I'm literally running an attempt murder here by myself.
Mhm.
Um, but what started to really grind down on me was dealing with the same victim, the same suspects over and over and over again, dealing with the same job day in, day out. You've got obviously on RMS, I don't know if it's the same for every county, but RMS was the system that we used. You got all your jobs, and I had like 24. So I knew what I had to do when I come in, I knew what I was dealing with, and it just got to the point where then I was coming in and I was getting more jobs and getting
Yeah.
sent to God knows what, suicides. I loved the people and I liked the environment. It just got to the point where you just can't work if you've got if your job load is up here and you've got no time to deal with it.
Yeah, I remember I had RMS, so we use niche, and I ended up
hmm
going off sick for just a couple of weeks, just absolute burnout. And I remember putting my hand, and if people who don't know, like RMS niche is measured in tasks, and the task is maybe about, I don't know, half a centimeter in length. And I remember putting my hand against the screen, and the task length was longer than my hand.
So do you want to know what mine was?
Go on.
Mine had a scrolly bar.
Fuck it. I never got to the scrolly bar. I never got that bad. But then you'd have like property workflows and shit like that. You'd have like property
Yeah.
workflows, or you'd have like, okay, and what else was it? You'd have like a you'd send off a file and it'd say like, oh, file rejected, further work needed, like fuck's sake, or further evidence
Forensics.
requested and shit like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
forensics, and this person's coming for a VA, therefore you now need to do biometrics. You can't force them, but you still had to apparently.
Or from the call
Okay.
center saying this person's
Oh
called in
yeah.
and wants to speak to you, and you're like, no.
The best one is when you dealt with a harassment 3 months ago, and then there's been nothing, and then they've
hmm
contacted again, and you get it's like a continuation. It's like, no, surely there's a length of time which goes by where it's no longer my job. So
Yeah.
It was absolute pain. Hi everyone, this video is sponsored by my best-selling police memoir, The Job's Fuck Secret Diary of a Police Officer. If you want to find out the things that really happen in the police, the good, the bad and the ugly, the things what the police really don't want people to know, then check this book out. The book is available on Kindle, paperback and audio, and you can get it from the link in the description of this video. Be sure to like and subscribe and show some support to the channel. You can also sign up to my newsletter to receive news and updates, and you can even support me on Patreon for as little as a price of coffee a month. I'm a one-man army doing this, so your support means the absolute world. So please sit back, relax and enjoy the video. But anyway, so let's get into the story of the week. So I'll be very interested to hear your thoughts on this one, Emma. So this is a story called Naked Gun in light of the recent movie, which by the way, are fantastic films. So in Telford, Shropshire, a 37-year-old man named Matthew Sylvester tried to carjack a police vehicle, but his weapon was something you could fold and toss in a recycling bin, a Primark bag. He allegedly threatened staff in the shop, exposed himself, and approached officers with what they believed was a firearm. Backup was called, a tense standoff ensued, only for the awkward reveal that the gun was actually cardboard and craft glue. Sylvester was subdued, arrested, and later sentenced to 19 months behind bars, pled guilty to several charges, including assault on emergency workers, possession of an imitation firearm, Class A drugs, and attempted burglary. 19 months doesn't sound like a lot of that, does it?
Well, no, but when an imitation firearm is made of cardboard, I would just think, how would you not know? Like, how would you see that gun and go, oh my God, that's a gun? It's made of cardboard and craft glue.
Well, I mean, I imagine if someone comes up to a police car and shoves something in the face, potentially screaming at the cops, so I think quite rightly the cops are going to
Whilst
shit themselves a
naked.
little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was naked. I think he exposed himself
Oh,
earlier on.
still.
So, but I mean, let's look at that. Okay, so threatened staff in the shop, so call that a Section 4 public order. So that's 6 months. Expose himself is 2 years. Approached officers what believe was a firearm, imitation firearm. I think that's 5 years.
5, yeah.
And attempted burglary, so call that 2. Class A drugs, a year maybe. So potential sentencing there of I don't know, 6 to 8 years, and he got 19 months, and yet they're putting people in prison for a tweet. Like, it just seems a bit ridiculous, I think. So, what do you think about that? What do you think about that situation?
I think that poor bloke is going to wake up in the custody cell and go, what the fuck have I done? If he's been found with Class A drugs on him, he's obviously just had a really bad trip and he's just had a jolly in Primark, whipped his knob out and then thought, what have I done?
Bender, hasn't he?
Yeah, he thought he was having the time of his life and woke up and going, oh my God.
Why the fuck am I here?
Why have I done that?
It's like the beer fear in it, but times 10. So you go out, you have a few drinks, you wake up in the morning and think, oh, was I a bit of a knob last night? Well, this guy woke. Imagine if you can't remember any of it, and then you get shown like the CCTV footage. Like I remember.
That me?
Yeah, no, that's not Willie.
That's not me. Literally.
I remember interviewing a lad, and basically he'd just been on an absolute mad one. He'd had too many drugs, and he was standing in the town centre, basically whipped his pants down, full 4K CCTV, just like walking around with his dick out, expose himself to people. Like, he wasn't even doing it secretly. He was full on, kecks down, arms up, just shouting at people, and people even coming over trying to get him dressed and stuff.
Oh my God.
And the next day, like, oh, you should have seen his face when I showed him the footage. He was he had a solicitor, and even the solicitor was like, officer, I don't think this is necessary to show him this. I'm like, I think it is, because I think he needs to know what a twat he's been.
Yeah, how he was acting. I had something similar like that. I had a murder investigation. This bloke's gone out on a massive bender, got absolutely pissed in his room, and thrown a bottle of vodka and sliced his hand open as he's done it. So he's bled all over himself, because obviously when you cut that bit and that bleeds. So he's covered in blood, went walking around and was screaming that he'd murdered an Albanian. So he got arrested and they had to jack open his boot, like forensically examine his car, because he's claimed to have murdered someone. And I've interviewed him like the next morning. He's woken up, looks absolutely worse for wear. And he's just like, you can just see him, he's like, what have I done? And I'm like, is this all just been a bit misconstrued? You've gone out, got drunk, said something you really regret, and now you're here for murder. I just thought, imagine that. That's like the worst case scenario. Waking up in the morning with a hangover, waking up on a blue mattress in a police cell and going, shit, I've been nicked for murder.
Did I say something silly last night? I have a
Yeah.
feeling I did. Say, oh, what am I here for? Was it a bit of a tit in town or something?
Yeah,
Oh
did
no,
I
you're
have
here
a...
because you've murdered an Albanian. Have I?
Yeah. Yeah.
Shit.
When did that
Oh
happen?
no. I know,
But he was
right? Is
fuming
this
because
when
he's
all
got
this
his
blood's
card,
over?
like, yeah, he's got his card, like, taken to the forensics thing. They've had to, like, jack his boot open and, like, damaged his car, all because he decided to say something. So,
It's just not the most clever thing, really, is it? We never catch the clever ones. So yeah,
yeah.
so for me, this guy, I'd say, is an absolute bellend. I don't
Mm,
think 19 months in custody is a long time, long enough, considering he's threatening cops with an imitation firearm.
yeah.
And like, what was his fucking intention? Did he think the cops were just going to give him the car? Because that'd be cakes, wouldn't it? I mean, regardless of whether you felt in fear or not, if someone nicks your car off you, that's cakes all day.
Let alone a car
Especially if it
crash.
wasn't a real gun.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, especially if it
Cardboard
wasn't a real
one.
gun. So, yeah, you got your car nicked off you by someone with a Primark bag. I mean, yeah,
Just whipping his cock
thankfully
out left,
that.
right, and centre.
Oh yeah. Well, what else are you gonna do on a Saturday night? He, yeah, it's a bit fucking silly, that bit silly, and I'm glad. I hope he was suitably dealt with by the officers. Put it that way. Well, yeah. All right then. So moving on. So an officer messaged in, said,
Mhm.
"Ah, this is I like this one. You'll enjoy this one." Hi guys, loving the pod and all that. I have a confession to make. I was on duty and single crewed. It was a day shift, and I have to be careful what I eat due to me suffering with IBS. Anyway, one day I must have eaten something that my stomach didn't agree with. Crippled with stomach cramps and in the middle of a busy town centre, I had to do something and do something drastic to avoid ruining my uniform. I was not ashamed to admit that this was a code brown, and I turned on my emergency equipment and blue lighted the 5 mile journey to the station to avoid shitting myself. Safe to say, I would like to keep this anonymous, and thankfully, I haven't had an experience like this or had to do it since.
Oh
Little
my
Code
god.
Brown there.
That's awful. Was
I
there not
know,
toilets
I
in the
know.
town centre you could just pop into?
I never used to like nipping into Tesco's for some food. Never mind going because like you're gonna shit yourself running into the bathroom.
Oh.
You'd have to keep your composure as you're walking in, wouldn't you? Like, and plus, what if somebody stops you to talk to you about something?
Yeah, I
You can't
suppose,
exactly
but
turn around and go. You can't say, "Sorry, I'll deal with your complaint in a minute. My IBS is kicking off, and I'm about to. I've fucking shit myself on the fruit and veg aisle."
have they never heard of Buscopan? Just pop a few of those
What's
before you.
Buscopan?
It's like the IBS relief tablets. Just pop a couple of them in the
Ah, right,
morning.
okay.
Save that happening.
I've heard of Imodium, but I think that's when you got a bad stomach, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh. Well, good job that no one found out because you'd probably get in a lot of trouble for that.
The best part is needing to blue light. So next time I see a copper absolutely flying through traffic, I'll be thinking
He's gonna shit
they
himself.
they need a shit.
Oh God.
But fair play. It's like when I first joined, I had family members going, "Oh, are you do you turn on your blue lights and go through the red lights when you're late for you've got some food or something?" And I don't think I ever did, but I definitely know cops that did. I definitely know some people that
Yeah.
may have broken the rules a little bit if they had some food which was going cold. So here's one. So, hey Jay, I'm a member of the Irish Police. I've been in the force now just over a year, and I've been having these thoughts of complete self doubt, anxiety about keeping up with incidents and court dates, etc. Not to mention crippling fear that I'm not good enough for it. Do you have any advice for someone like me who's been in the door just 5 minutes? Emma, what advice would you have for this prospective officer?
I can relate to that. I feel it's almost like massive imposter syndrome when you join the job because you've suddenly given all of this power. You suddenly become powerful enough to arrest someone even when you're not on duty, and you're given like you've got the opportunity to take people's freedom away. And I get that in thinking, oh my gosh, this is my job, this is my life now, and I don't feel like I'm ready for it. Obviously, when I joined, I was only, I think I was 21, 22, and if they're obviously young as well, it's quite a massive responsibility, especially if you've not sort of had children or anything like that. It's it's a massive responsibility. But all I would say is if you're struggling with court dates, you just speak to somebody, one of your superiors, and they're normally quite good because obviously you can't miss court dates because then cases get thrown out and it's not great. So just speak to someone, say that you're struggling in terms of like time management and stuff, and they can normally give you some time to sort out um your account. But I do get the feeling, but I just think you wouldn't have got the job if you weren't cut out for it. I mean, you've passed training, you've done well, you're where you are, just stick to it.
Solid advice. Yeah, so I think as well is with like imposter syndrome is we imagine that everybody else around us has an idea what they're doing, and
Yeah.
we are completely clueless and we're afraid of being found out. I can speak from experience to say that everybody's winging it.
Yeah.
People just may have more of an idea than other people. So like, I mean, I did, like I said, I did 10 years and there was still incidents when I was going to near the end. Like, I don't have a fucking clue what I'm doing here. And you
Yeah.
just as long as you go there and you learn, you ask questions from
Mhm.
people that are maybe more experienced, or even if you've got a colleague who's maybe a bit less experienced than you, there's nothing wrong with saying, "What do you think? What's your opinion here?" I remember going to a job, and it was a DA incident. There were two male suspects. It was a gay couple, and they both had injuries. They both saying the other one started it, and I remember standing there going, the fuck, like, who's coming in? Because one of us
Mhm.
coming in, we can't lock them both up. So I remember speaking to the lad I was with, and he had about half my service, and he said, I said to him like, what do you think? And he said, oh, I'm not sure. I was like, great, falls back to
Helpful.
me then. So I know, so we had a discussion. We decided who to bring in, and funny enough, he ended up being very very aggressive when we tried to grab hold of him. So I was like, all right, we made the right choice there because he's clearly the aggressor. Um,
50-50 choice and you got it right.
exactly. So I was quite happy with those odds. But yeah, every, nobody knows exactly what they're doing from constable all the way up to fucking superintendent. Like everyone's
Yeah.
making it up as they go along. Everyone's trying the best, and as long as when you go to a job, you are willing to learn, willing to
Mhm.
look at the situation, and willing to ask questions, and as long as you turn up and you do the best you can with the tools what you've got, then no one can really fault you for that. And sometimes you'll get it wrong. Sometimes you'll cock up. It's part of learning. Policing
Yeah.
isn't an exact science where if A happens, then B is the outcome. It's a best guess scenario a lot of the time. Is
Mhm.
you think this is the right thing to do, and as long as nobody dies,
Uh-huh.
then you're generally all right.
That's what I was told. It's just make sure that, it's easier said than done because obviously it is a massive thing, but just don't be scared to get stuff wrong. Like it's always a learning journey. Even like you
Hmm.
said, people above you don't know. I've had detectives that are like a year off of retiring that don't know everything. No one expects you to know everything in the job, but collectively, with everyone that's on your shift, or you're probably going to know more collectively than you do individually. So no one expects you to know everything.
100%, and I think that's some solid advice. Like, don't expect it. The thing with imposter syndrome is it shows that you care. You care about wanting to do well. So if anything, I'd say don't lose it, because
No.
when you feel that you have got it all figured out, you'll experience something and you'll be like, I've never experienced this before, I don't know. And then you'll feel like an imposter again. So I would say never lose that imposter syndrome, because that means that if you lose the imposter syndrome, it means that you don't care anymore. So if
Yeah.
anything, it's a good indication that you're in the right job, you enjoy it, and you're willing to learn as well. So that's what I'd say with that. This one's just a general gripe. So when you turn it to a job that isn't a job, the complainant just can't adults, and they don't like your tone, so they make a complaint.
Oh, I've had it before where you get called out and it's like a family dispute and there's so many parties involved, there's so many sides of the stories, no one's injured, and it's just like I couldn't tell you what's gone on here. You've obviously got an issue. No one's really broken the law. You just need to fucking grow up and sort it out yourself and stop calling the police because you just want to rattle on someone. And
Mhm.
then when they put in a complaint, it's like it's obviously got to be taken seriously. But I've had it before. I've had PSD call me and be like, "Do you remember this job?" And I'm like, "Oh fuck, yes I do. What now?" And it's like it's been the same. It's normally the same people that you go back to. So PSD normally tend to get the idea and go, okay, they're just obviously dickheads. But it's just so infuriating when you get sent to these jobs and you're like, cool, I'm going to go and help someone. And you go and it's just, he said this and they said this and then my neighbour's done this and they moved my wheelie bin. And it's like, I don't care. There's people out there that are having serious stuff that I should be at. And I'm sat here managing toddlers. Like, get over it.
They're the same people that if you pull them over will be like, have you nothing better to do?
Yeah.
So, well,
You're not
I'm
wearing your
fucking
seatbelt.
here.
If you go through your windscreen, that's going to be my fault, isn't it? And that's also going to be my job to scrape you off the road. So, no, I don't have anything better to do. And they just tend to think that they're
Exactly.
above the law.
I know. I had it before where what happened? Somebody rang in saying that their 9-year-old was being disruptive and they couldn't handle it, and they wanted the police to go around and basically scare them. So I said, and Miss Sergeant, I got it dropped to my workload actually. And I said to Miss Sergeant, like, I'm not fucking doing that. Like, why am I going around
Because they
parenting
can't
this
fucking
bloody
parent.
kid? Exactly. But the sergeant would, because they rang them back and said, yeah, we're not going round for that, because the person kicked off. They said, no, you've got to go. And I ended up leaving before I ended up actioning that job. And my mate who I was still in contact with said, yeah, he ended up getting it and he had to go around and basically bollock this kid and scare this kid. It's like, one, you're showing that the police are the parents, which the child doesn't have. And two, you're making the kids scared of the police. Well, you don't want to be scared of the police. You want the police to
Respect them
you
and know that they're going to be
respect
there
them
to
and
help.
also
Yeah.
call for help. Exactly. So, but that just comes down to shit leadership. That the sergeant I had when I left wasn't the best. Any kind of pushback or backflack, it was like, oh, we can't have a complaint. Well, why?
It's the same, yeah.
I used to finish a job, I'd get off the phone to somebody and used to say to the sergeant, that's a complaint.
Yeah,
Because I've told
I
them
do
no.
the same. It's like people nowadays just can't be told no. And then they treat, it's like the video you made the other day, that people treat the police like a social service as well. I'm not here to parent your child. That's your problem. If you can't parent your child, that's not on us. We're not here to come and discipline them for you.
I remember I had one, and it was kids arguing in the street. Like, one kid had pushed another kid over and they'd reported it to the police. And they were both one of those families where they definitely got like live, laugh, love posters on the wall and, you know, more
Crushed
clothes
velvet.
on the floor. Exactly. And they look like they shop at fucking, they got all the furniture from B&M or the range or whatever. Not that there's anything wrong with those, but I just wouldn't necessarily have a diamante couch in my living room. But anyway.
Each to their own.
I'm probably going to get a few people commenting going, I've got a diamante couch, so listen,
Live, laugh,
you
love.
have whatever the fuck you want. Live, laugh, love, exactly. So, another one here. Hey Jay, bought your book and you were kind enough to sign it. Thank you very much. I've been in the job for 8 years. I was told by a DC that an officer was on a crime scene fairly recently with a crime scene log. During their stint, their father turned up to say hello to them. That officer asked if their dad could take over the scene so they could have a break and get some food. What the fuck is going on with recruits?
We had that. It was awful. So they ended up getting sacked, I think. They were like 19,
I wonder why.
fresh out of training, and they were on a scene guard. I think it was for a murder, and text their mum like, I'm going to be home late, and then the mum like kept repeatedly calling them, and they kept stepping aside to answer their phone whilst on the scene guard. Then the mum turned up and took them home.
No.
And they left the scene guard.
So they left the scene of a murder because their mum turned up and said,
I think they were double crewed, and that's how PSD caught wind of it all. But yeah, decided their mum had gone and like they were like, dinner's ready, you've got to come home. It's like, what is it? It's not fucking school. They're at a job. They're a police officer. Like,
yeah.
what is going on? I know, and it's just, you do think, you go, what the fuck did you think that you would just, you know, if you finish 2 hours late, that you can just go home when you decide to? It's just
not everyone understands that. Like I've had mates message me and say, like, you know, if I've had planned or something and I've been stuck on the job, saying like, mate, you finished 2 hours ago, like, why are you still at work? Come out. Like, I can't just leave.
Oh yeah, hang on, let me just park that. Yeah.
I'm on a scene, or I'm waiting for a decision off CPS or something. Like, I can't just, and people don't always understand it. And I think that's something what you have to I think that's something what needs to be made clear when people join the service, because I'm sure the ambulance service or the fire service is the same.
Yeah.
It's yes, you might be on a 7-7 or a 6 whatever, but that
That's not your
that's
finish time.
that finish time is malleable.
Yeah.
That's ideally when you want to finish, but it isn't necessarily the case. And I think they need to make people who join in the service aware of that. Like, you will have days where you will not get off on time. You'll probably have entire sets where you will not get off on time once.
Yeah.
And it's about obviously like how you manage that. But it is a pain, and the fact that the mum came and collected them on the story you said, and that the dad took over the scene guard on this one is a bit ridiculous. But I've also heard of stories where there was an officer who suffered with anxiety, and what they did was they had a blanket where they could put over their head in the office, and if they put the blanket over the head, they wouldn't need be able to go to jobs, and nobody could talk to them. So it was like a safety blanket, and this was just accepted. And I'm all for making reasonable adjustments to people who do have depression or mental health or whatever. But there's also like, okay, but what about the needs of the job? Are you in the right job if you do struggle with that?
Probably not. If you've got to sit there with a blanket over your head, you should probably be reevaluating your life choices.
Absolutely, reevaluating your career choices. So
there's definitely been moments that I want to sit there with a blanket over my head, but you just can't.
You just can't do it. You
You
can't. You're a
can't.
fucking police officer.
You just got to get back up and go carry on.
Yeah, fuck it. I'm not bothering.
Yeah, you know what? Fetal position with the blanket. I'm out. Anxiety.
Yeah. I can't do it. No, it's not. I mean, you were just in the wrong job if you need to do that, and if your mum's ringing you up every 5 minutes. I heard a story of a guy who a copy didn't turn into work, and the sergeant kept ringing him and he wasn't answering. So concerned, he went round to his house, and it turns out the mum or the parents had grounded him, and then said they took his work phone off him as well. So I think the sergeant then threatened to lock up the mum for stealing police property, unless like they gave the phone back and the guy could come back to work. It's just ridiculous.
I think that's it, is when you start getting your parents to interfere. Like, you're an adult, and I think that's on the parents more than it is on them. Like, your child is literally a police officer, and they're not a child anymore. They are a fully grown, functioning adult. Yes, they live in your house. Yes, respect your rules, but don't start interfering with their job.
Exactly. And like you said, you're not just working at Tesco's, are you?
No.
You're on a bleeding murder scene. There's one, and this is actually from some of the emergency services. So it says, I'm not a police officer, but I wanted to share this anyway. So we're always open to get some input from other people. A few nights ago, in a store a few miles from mine, the night manager overdosed and died in the store. One would think that corporate would close the store for respect of staff or at least clean it. But no, the wheels of capitalism stop for no man. They simply hauled the dead manager out of the store and kept the shift going. So the store manager died from an overdose, and rather than, maybe close it for the day, they just hauled him out the back door and then just carried on.
I would hate to say I'm surprised, but I'm really not.
Well, this was in America as well.
Oh, yeah. It just shows you're a number, doesn't it?
That's certainly something I say to people, like when they're really stressed about work or they're stressed about the jobs and stuff. I'm like, listen, if you went off sick or you quit, there would be someone sat in your chair within a few weeks. Like, don't break yourself for a job, because there is more to life outside of the job you're currently doing. We can just sometimes get conditioned to believe that that's all there is.
Yeah.
And like this shows, you could literally die at work.
They carry on working around you.
You reckon you have to keep stepping over him?
Now you've just died and we're waiting for the undertakers, but I really need some bananas.
Squeeze past you there, thank you. Okay, so blue light rants. We like this part.
Ooh.
So I saw this one. The Welsh Ambulance Service reported non-emergency calls, including requests to help with a runaway alligator under the sofa, chipped teeth, and even nightmares. And from my own anecdotal experience, I actually have a family member who called 999 because a cat got in the house and they couldn't get it out. So why the fuck are people calling the non-emergency services for a nightmare?
What do they expect to be done about that? That's baffled
Police to
me.
come round and tell the subconscious off, maybe arrest their
Yeah,
subconscious.
weird. Tell them stop eating cheese before bed. Like,
I mean, the alligator one I can kind of understand, but nightmares, that's a bit much. That's a bit of a
is that an American
that's a bit
thing?
of an
Because you said
interesting.
North
No,
Wales,
this is
and now
fucking crazy. Wales, Wales is fucking crazy,
not just
especially those
sheep.
like real or prestatyn. Oh no, yeah, not just sheep. They have runaway
Not
alligators
just sheep.
apparently. So there's also another one here. I'd be interested to know your thoughts on this one. So paramedics are being instructed to treat 2 patients in one ambulance. So the East of England Ambulance Service has reportedly directed crews to transport 2 patients at a time, even if both are unstable. A senior paramedic described this situation as desperate.
That is awful.
That's not okay, is it?
No. Well, how as a paramedic as well? Because there's normally only a crew of 2 of them. One's obviously driving, and the other one's in the back treating the patient. If they're unstable and has to have CPR done, what are they going to do? Like, you
Fucking
can't just stop
two-handed.
CPR.
One in
Yeah.
each one.
Hang on. Hang on. Get that horrific machine on one of them and start, like, it's just baffling. You can't deal with 2 unstable patients. That's just going to lead to massive mortality rates.
Oh, absolutely, and I imagine there's going to be, there's data on that. But it's just a whole thing of like the NHS is absolutely screwed when it comes to
Crumbling.
that. Now they're saying that you have to double crew, double patient and ambulance. Like, how is that possibly going to work? That's somebody gone. Somebody gets paid a lot of money going, right, we've got too many patients and not enough ambulances. Well, just stick them all in one. Just have 4 or 5. It's all right. One on the chair, one on the roof,
Yeah.
one in with the front passenger, with the
Start looking
driver.
like one of those Indian trains where they're all like hanging out of it.
Yeah,
En
all
route to
fucking
the
set their own.
hospital.
I know exactly.
Someone's missing a leg.
So that's absolutely bloody ridiculous. I mean, I was about to say like, okay, what if they're both not critical? What if? But even then, like, you want a dedicated service to. If I ring up an ambulance, I don't want Joe Bloggs in the back who's bloody cracked a tooth or whatever whatever he's up with, he's got up with him in the back sharing my ambulance. I want to know that the ambulance crew that are there to look after me and support me.
It's not the same as
I
sharing a
don't,
taxi, is it? It's like
yeah.
weird.
They'll be getting Ubers next.
Never know.
Ambulance Ubers.
Ambulance Uber. That it will be like. Have you watched the new Black Mirror?
Yes, and I actually watched Black Mirror before it went on Netflix. I watched it on the BBC. So, just saying.
Well, there we go. But the what is it called? The one with the brain, where it's like she had the brain damage and then it like kept getting her to up her subscription. That's what the NHS will turn into. You'll get to the point where it won't be private anymore because it's so overused that you'll then have to start paying, but there'll be different levels of like subscriptions and the fastest to the hospital when you're in an emergency. It will start being like America where you've got health services like health insurance, and that's the only way that you'll get covered because it's crumbling and it's actually a bit scary.
And I don't think health insurance would actually solve the issue, because all you do is just the NHS it's a money pit, isn't it? It's ran so badly, that's why the money's being drained so much. So if you throw more money at it,
It's not gonna fix the problem. Yeah.
exactly. So it needs a massive, like, just same as the police needs just a massive overhaul of how it's all run and everything else. But the Black Mirror analogy, I quite like that. Like, if we look realistically what it could get like, okay, you pay £50 a month, you get an ambulance. You pay £150 a month, you get a quick ambulance. You might have to car share with somebody else, like if they're on like the lower.
Me and my partner were watching it and we were just thinking like this is so scary because this could probably happen one day. Maybe not with like the brain like where she had the issue, but like with health service in general or just life in general. Like this, it will get to the point where it's like that, and it's terrifying.
I mean, 10 years ago, Emma, they said you were crazy, but now, God knows.
Exactly.
So I looked at a story actually, and this is to do with the fire service, and I'd like your thoughts on this. So the tabloid was Bullying, Racism and Misogyny in the Fire Service. So a shocking independent review found every fire brigade in England is plagued by bullying, harassment and discrimination, from racist slurs dismissed as banter to threatening comments that they're going to sexually assault female firefighters, and a profoundly toxic hierarchy that pushes out those who speak up. So I've got a few things here. So a senior officer was accused of calling a black colleague the N-word, dismissing it as simply having a laugh. A firefighter reporting a superior for making a racist comment only to find his account dismissed because the alleged offender wouldn't have behaved such a way. And if they spoke out about it, they would make their life hell. And 2 male firefighters mockingly told a female colleague that they were going to rape her before simulating it with her. Now that's absolutely fucking atrocious. Like, I don't know much about the fire service, but that's actually really, really worrying if that's happening.
I know it is. My dad was a fireman. I've heard some absolutely horrific stories, and none of that surprises me. He got horrifically bullied by superiors.
Really?
He decided to speak out about it and ended up getting medically retired. It's
Wow.
awful. It is bad.
So what kind of stuff was going on then?
I don't know the ins and outs because I think I was about 11 when it was happening. But I know there was issues with superiors. He was getting bullied by them. I've heard, racial slurs being said to black colleagues. Obviously, women aren't very represented in the fire service at all. There's maybe like one per shift, so I can imagine that there's absolutely horrible stuff being said, if not to their face, behind their backs. Yeah, it's not great. I mean, times might have changed. We're talking about like what, 10, 15 years ago, but if people are still sending
from
in
what
that,
this is saying, it's still going on.
Still going on, yeah. But yeah, I know that there are some nasty pieces of work higher up in the fire brigade.
That's upsetting, and it's a whole thing of you reach so high, then you think that you're untouchable. And with the fire service, you don't really hear much about the fire service, do you? You mainly hear about the police, the NHS, and the ambulance service. So this is actually really, really worrying. So if anyone is in the fire service, listen to this. I'd be really interested to hear what actually happens, because I don't know anything about it. We just take the piss out of the fire service, like your water fairy.
Water fairies.
Yeah, and that you've got a much better fitness requirement than the police, which I think is a bit backwards.
I'd like to hear more from fire service to see because obviously I've only heard from one side. I've obviously seen my dad struggle through what he went through with them, but it'd be interesting to see if it is sort of that bad still, or what's still going on.
So, I'd like to know your thoughts about this one. This was one of those comments where I get on social media, and it's like you type out 50 replies and then you remember you got to be professional. So I thought, fuck it, we'll talk about it on the pod. So it was a post I did about PTSD, and saying that there's so many cops and so many ambulance service and everything else who struggle with PTSD. And a comment I got here was, I did 30 years, was no problem. Man up and just get on with it.
I've had loads like that on my Instagram too.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I know an officer who did 30 years in the service frontline, and then they did like another 10 in the control room, and they are similar to this kind of way of thinking. But at the same time, I remember them breaking down one day and telling me about an incident involving like a child, what they dealt with probably about 40 years ago, and they still think about it, and it still weighs on the mind.
And let me guess, they're quite a heavy drinker.
They do like a beer. Yeah.
Quite a heavy drinker, has this oh, just man up and get on with it, but gets shit-faced every night with either red wine or beer. Wakes up in the morning feeling ridiculously hungover. Do you not think that that's a problem? Are you not noticing that actually I'm drinking to forget everything that I've gone through? That's PTSD.
Yeah. Because people block it out, don't they? They don't want to deal with it. And I mean, when I was in the job, I don't know if you felt this way as well, Emma, but when I was in the job, if I go to something pretty fucking nasty or something was a bit upsetting, I wouldn't want to show that it had affected me, because I used to think, well, I'm a police officer. I'm going to deal with that sort of stuff. I need to get on with it. I need to crack on. But as a result of that, like, I remember one night I was having a drink just with my partner, and I just absolutely started cracking up, started breaking down, and then just all this shit started coming out of. I dealt with this incident, and I dealt with this and dealt with that. Like, I went to that murder of that Brianna Jar, that trans girl that got stabbed to death. I went to that, and it was fucking horrendous. And even now when I talk about it, or I think about, like, I watched the documentary. I was really sobbing my eyes out, like watching the documentary on it, like
Yeah.
seeing the body worn footage of the cop running towards it, and that's something you've got to talk about, and you've got to deal with that, because that trauma doesn't disappear. You just bury it, but your body keeps score of trauma and that.
Did the job offer any support?
So we got what was called a TISM, a traumatic incident debrief, but that was about 4 or 5 weeks later, because I was
Meant
kept
to be
on.
within
I was
10
kept
days.
on. It was a few weeks later. I was kept on scene. So basically, everyone else who was first there all got taken off straight away, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, I got kept on for like 6, 7 hours. So I could see the body, I could see them all working and everything else. And at the time, I went home that night. I was like, oh, there's been a murder and it's this and that, and you didn't really think much of it. But it's later on.
Yeah, you go home and you think, I'm okay, I feel all right, I've obviously seen this horrific thing, I'm going to take some time. And then it's only the next few days where you start to notice it,
Yeah,
and then it becomes a problem. But then by that point, it's often too late, and the job's support system is non existent. And then, whilst you're still dealing with that one incident that you've gone to, you'll go into another stabbing, you'll go into another suicide, another murder, a sudden death, and dealing with
hmm
traumatic events on top of that. So, how are you ever
yeah.
meant to figure out in your head the process of dealing with each traumatic event when you are constantly just adding to that trauma? And that's why so many people have complex PTSD.
Exactly, and it's the needs of the organisation as well. So the wheels keep on turning. So if you've been to a traumatic incident and you come in the next day, they're not gonna, if they're short staffed or the radio's going off, they're not
Yeah.
going to say, oh, you don't need to go out because you went to the incident yesterday, are they? They're going to go, well,
No.
listen, we'll deal with that later on. You'll have your debrief and all the rest of it, but you need it outside, and that could
Yeah.
equally be something else. I'd I had a cop message me, and she's asked, well, they've asked to like mean to not go into too much detail about it because it's still ongoing. But
Hmm.
they said that they went to an incident where someone had really seriously hurt themselves and they were basically bleeding out on the street. And they were the first one there. They were single crewed, which is a massive issue. They were the
Hmm.
first one there, and it took them took about 5 to 10 minutes for some else support to turn up. And they said like that was the longest 5 to 10 minutes of their life, just trying to stop this bloke from passing away.
Yeah.
And they said like they went home and they were fine, but then they couldn't sleep the next few days, and it's
Mm.
like they were waking up in hot sweats, and so it's like, well, yeah, because you've not processed you've just dealt with.
Yeah, I had something similar. So I went to a suicide shortly after Christmas. It was in between Christmas and the New Year. And the man had unfortunately slit like this part of his arm and bled out.
Hmm.
And so I don't know if you know, but like during that time period is when suicides just go, because
Yeah,
everyone's
around
like,
Christmas time.
yeah, around Christmas time, people are dealing with like family issues and whatnot. A lot of people that are alone find it really difficult. So there is actually two that come in at the same time. And this just shows how desensitized police officers are. But I had to go to one of them, and my colleague had to go to another one. And we were deciding between us who was going to go to which. So it was the choice of either going to this man who had bled out by slitting his wrist, or someone who was in a hotel and had hung themselves on a picture frame with a hairdryer. And like to just even sit there and decide which one you'd rather go to. And
Yeah.
I'd been to a few hangings that month already, so I said, look, I'll go to that one, you deal with that one. So I went expecting there to be loads of blood. I'm not a squeamish person, so I thought it'll be fine. Actually was not fine. I had to search all the body, obviously, as you do. But as I pulled my hands away, I looked like I'd committed a murder. Like I was double gloved, but
Wow.
you know when you can
Wow.
still feel it, it was still like he'd been there about
Hmm.
12 hours. The blood had started to congeal, so it had gone all jelly like. I was scooping through it all to try and find anything. I was searching him, and then it got to the point where I had to step outside with my sergeant. So I was like, this is a bit much. We'd both gone like white as a ghost. Both felt a bit woozy. So we got in the car, we debriefed. He went, "Are you okay?" And I said, "You know what? It was a bit horrible, but yeah, I think I'm fine. And obviously, my dad was in the fire brigade, so I called him up when I got back to the station. I went downstairs for a vape because I used to vape then to try and just
Hmm.
help. Um, and we spoke through it because he's obviously seen his fair share of trauma. Because when you're in that job, you don't want to then. I could have called my mum, who I'm really close to, or my partner, but they've never seen stuff like that. They've never even seen a dead
Yeah.
body, and they never chose
Yeah.
to go into that job. So I don't want to put them in that situation, traumatizing them by telling them what I've gone through. So I dealt with it, called my dad, and then I said, you know what, I'm fine. I'll see how I go. And then over the next few days, it was New Year's Eve, and I went away with my partner. We went to a pub for lunch, and I ordered a roast dinner, and I got cranberry sauce with it, thinking nothing of it. I scooped the cranberry sauce onto my plate, and honestly, nearly passed out. And he was like, "Are
Wow.
you like, what's wrong?" And I was like, "I don't. It must be like related to that suicide that I went to." And then another one we were watching Harry Potter, and he like slits his wrist to put the blood into the cauldron. One minute I
Yeah.
was watching it, the next minute I passed out on the sofa. Don't remember
Wow.
anything. And then so I've gone back in and I've asked for help. This trim is what ours was called, like the trauma intervention, meant to be
Yeah.
within
Yeah.
10 days of the event. Got offered the appointment within 14, cancelled it on the day of, re-gave me another appointment on the 16th day after, said you need to drive for an hour on your rest day to go to the appointment, when I had my own therapy 18 days after the event. And then no one ever called me on my days off, nothing. And you just think, if you're dealing with that, and at the same time I'm still dealing with all the jobs on my account, still trying to process all of this whilst dealing with other
Yeah.
traumatic stuff, it's crazy that there's just so little support and no one actually realizes how many traumatic things. It's like an average person in their life will see between 3 to 14 traumatic things. A police officer is 6 to 700.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember seeing that stat.
When there's people, because they're obviously still dealing with the same things that we've gone to, so why is it that they're saying just man up and deal with it? Well, what are you doing to cope with it then? Are you drinking heavily? Are you smoking 60 a day? What is it? Because you're not healthy. If you've seen all of that and you've done that for 30 years, there is no way on this planet that hasn't affected you. And to turn around and tell colleagues just to man up and deal with it, I've known of so many colleagues in the time that have actually taken their own life, a lot of them being men, because they probably dealt with people like that and felt that they couldn't speak up about what they're going through.
It is sad, and it's a culture which needs to change. I think it
Mhm.
is changing slowly because it's being more recognised. But this whole thing of I did X amount, man up, get over it, you're too
Yeah.
soft. Frankly, mate, fuck off. Like that. That's
Yeah.
what I've got to say to that. Um, because I don't believe that you've done 30 years in the job and you are completely fine. I don't believe that at all. You've probably got some very unhealthy coping mechanisms which are
Mhm.
masking all the fucking trauma what your body's carrying around with you.
Yeah.
So we'll finish on a good news story because we like finishing on a good news story. So on New Year's Eve, while most of us were counting down to midnight, PC Jack Thompson was off duty relaxing at home until an explosion ripped through the nearby street. The blast was so violent that it shook his house just 100 metres away. A terraced property had been obliterated. The roof was gone, bricks, rubble, and chaos everywhere. But Jack didn't stop to think. He ran straight into the wreckage, not once considering his own safety. Beneath the debris, he found an elderly man gravely injured. Jack pulled him free and carried him out, while the building continued to collapse around them. He then went back. He'd been told more people were trapped. Upstairs, he discovered two others, but the staircase had been destroyed. Still, Jack stayed comforting them, keeping them calm, and coordinating emergency crews as they arrived. He remained until every last person was safe. He wasn't on duty. He wasn't required to act, but he did because that's who he was. PC Jack Thompson's courage that night was immediate, instinctive, and life-saving. He's now been deservedly nominated for the National Police Bravery Award. So, from me, thank you, Jack, for reminding us what real bravery looks like,
That
for
gave me
staying calm
goosebumps.
and everything else. I know, right? I was thinking when I was
Yeah.
reading that, I was like, fucking hell. Um, just thanks, man. You know, the world's a better place with you in it. So, massively appreciated. And that is what it. That's what people sign up to do the emergency services for.
Yeah.
People who sign up for the right reasons, and yeah, there are people who are alive as a result of what this person
What
did.
you
So
done?
fucking fair play to you. So Emma, before we go, anything you would like to add? Any or anywhere people can find you or follow you?
You can find me on my Instagram. It's probably easier if you add it in somewhere, but it's Louise. I'm sure if you just type that in, it will come up. But it's with M with two M's, two underscores, two E's, and an X on the end. The easiest way to say
We'll add
it.
we'll add those links to the video and everything else. Yeah.
Yeah, but everything on my page is. I'm very much into my fitness now. I use that very much as a coping mechanism for everything. But yeah, fitness and lifestyle. Obviously, like you, I share quite a bit about the job. But yeah, find me on there.
Amazing. Well, Emma, thank you very much for joining us on the Jobs Fucked podcast. And again, guys, if you have enjoyed this podcast, please follow Emma. Please follow and support the podcast in whatever way you can. And if you do have any stories, by all means, the links to submit your own stories, and as you can tell, they're all anonymized. Feel free to send it in because, we want this to be a fun, happy, safe place where people in emergency services can comment, can feel less alone, and can also just vent little frustrations and everything else what they may have. So until next time, see you later.